Hurrah!
I wonder how the king escaped our hands.
While we pursued the horsemen of the north, he slyly stole away and left his men.
Lord Stafford's father, Duke of Buckingham, is either slain or wounded dangerously. I cleft his beaver with a downright blow. That this is true, father, behold his blood.
And brother, here's the Earl of Wiltshire's blood, whom I encountered as the battles joined.
Hey, speak thou for me, and tell them what I did.
Richard hath less deserved of all my sons. But is your grace dead, Lord of Somerset?
Thus do I hope to shake King Henry's head.
And so do I, victorious Prince of York. This is the palace of the fearful king, and this the regal seat. Possess it, York.
Assist me then, sweet Warwick, and I will.
We'll all assist you. He that flies shall die.
And when the king comes, offer no violence, unless he seek to thrust you out perforce.
The queen this day here holds a parliament, but little thinks we shall be of her counsel. By words or blows, here let us win our right.
My lords, look where the sturdy rebel sits. Even in the chair of state. Belike he means, backed by the power of Warwick, that false peer, to aspire unto the crown and reign as king. Earl of Northumberland, he slew thy father, and thine, Lord Clifford, and you both have vowed revenge on him, his sons, his favourites, and his friends.
I be not heavens be revenged on me.
The hope thereof makes Clifford mourn and steel.
Shall we suffer this? Let's pluck him down.
He does not sit there. Had your father lived, my gracious lord, here in the parliament, let us assail the family of York.
Far be the thought of this from Henry's heart, to make a shambles of the Parliament House. Cousin of Exeter, frowns, words, and threats shall be the war that Henry means to use. Thou factious Duke of York, descend my throne and kneel for grace and mercy at my feet. I am thy sovereign.
I am thine.
Be Duke of Lancaster, let him be king.
He is both king and Duke of Lancaster, and that the Lord of Westmoreland shall maintain.
Will we show our title to the crown? If not, our swords shall plead it in the field.
What title hast thou, traitor, to the crown? Thy father was, as thou art, Duke of York. I am the son of Henry the Fifth.
Father, tear the crown from the usurper's head.
Sweet father, do so. Set it on your head.
Let's fight it out and not stand cavilling thus.
Sons, peace.
Peace thou, and give King Henry leave to speak. Think'st thou that I will leave my kingly throne wherein my grandsire and my father sat? No. First shall war unpeople this my realm, aye, and their colours, often born in France, and now in England, to our heart's great sorrow, shall be my winding sheet. Why faint you, lords? My title's good, and far better than his.
Prove it, Henry, and thou shalt be king.
Henry the Fourth, by conquest, got the crown.
Was by rebellion against his king.
I know not what to say, my title's weak. Tell me, may not a king adopt an heir?
What then?
And if he may, then I am lawful king. For Richard, in the view of many lords, resigned the crown to Henry the Fourth, whose heir my father was, and I am his.
He rose against him, being his sovereign, and made him to resign his crown perforce.
Suppose, my lords, he did it unconstrained. Think you 'twere prejudicial to his crown?
No, for he could not so resign his crown, but that the next heir should succeed and reign.
Art thou against us, Duke of Exeter?
His is the right. Therefore pardon me, my conscience tells me he is lawful king.
All will revolt from me and turn to him.
Plantagenet, for all the claim thou layest, think not that Henry shall be so deposed.
Deposed he shall be, in despite of all.
Thou art deceived. 'Tis not thy southern power of Essex, Norfolk, Suffolk, nor of Kent, which makes thee thus presumptuous and proud, can set the Duke up in spite of me.
King Henry, be thy title right or wrong, Lord Clifford vows to fight in thy defense. May that ground gape and swallow me alive, where I shall kneel to him that slew my father.
Oh, Clifford, how thy words revive my heart.
Do right unto this princely Duke of York, or I will fill the house with armed men, and over the chair of state where now he sits, write up his title with usurping blood.
My Lord of Warwick, hear me but one word. Let me for this my lifetime reign as king.
Confirm the crown to me and to mine heirs, and thou shalt reign in quiet while thou livest.
I am content. Richard Plantagenet, enjoy the kingdom after my decease.
What wrong is this unto the prince, your son?
What good is this to England and himself?
Base, fearful, and despairing Henry.
How hast thou injured both thyself and us?
I cannot here to stay to hear these articles.
Nor I.
Come, cousin, let us tell the queen these news.
Farewell, faint-hearted and degenerate king, in whose cold blood no spark of honour bides.
Be thou a prey unto the house of York, and die in bands for this unmanly deed.
In dreadful war mayst thou be overcome, or live in peace, abandoned and despised.
Turn this way, Henry, and regard them not. Why should you sigh, my lord?
Not for myself, Lord Warwick, but my son, whom I unnaturally shall disinherit. But be it as it may, I here entail the crown to thee and to thine heirs forever, conditionally, that here thou take an oath to cease this civil war, and whilst I live, to honor me as thy king and sovereign, and neither by treason nor hostility to seek to put me down and reign thyself.
This oath I willingly take and will perform.
Long live King Henry. Plantagenet, embrace him.
And long live thou, and these thy forward sons.
Now York and Lancaster are reconciled.
First be he that seeks to make them foes. Here comes the queen, whose looks bewray her anger. I'll steal away.
Exeter, so will I.
Nay, go not from me. I will follow thee.
Be patient, gentle queen, and I will stay.
Who can be patient in such extremes? Wretched man! Would I had died a maid and never seen thee, never borne thee son, seeing thou hast proved so unnatural a father. Hath he deserved to lose his birthright thus? Hadst thou but loved him half so well as I, or felt that pain which I did for him once, or nourished him as I did with my blood, thou wouldst have left thy dearest heart blood there, rather than have that savage duke thine heir, and disinherited thine own son.
Father, you cannot disinherit me. If you be king, why should not I succeed?
Pardon me, Margaret, pardon me, sweet son. The Earl of Warwick and the Duke enforced me.
Enforced thee? Art thou king and wilt be forced? I shame to hear thee speak. Ah, timorous wretch! Thou hast undone thyself, thy son, and me, and given unto the house of York such head as thou shalt reign but by their sufferance. To entail him and his heirs unto the crown, what is it but to make thy sepulchre and creep into it far before thy time? Had I been there, which am a silly woman, the soldiers would have tossed me on their pikes before I would have granted to that act. But thou preferrest thy life before thine honor. And seeing thou dost, I here divorce myself both from thy table, Henry, and thy bed, until that act of Parliament be repealed, whereby my son is disinherited. The northern lords that have forsworn thy colours will follow mine, if once they see them spread, and spread they shall be to thy foul disgrace and utter ruin of the house of York. Thus do I leave thee. Come, son, let's away. Our army is ready. Come, we'll after them.
Stay, gentle Margaret, and hear me speak.
Thou hast spoke too much already. Get thee gone.
Gentle son Edward, thou wilt stay with me?
Aye, to be murdered by his enemies.
When I return with victory from the field, I'll see your grace. Till then, I'll follow her.
Come, son, away. We may not linger thus.
Poor queen. How love to me and to her son hath made her break out in terms of rage. Revenged may she be on that hateful duke, whose haughty spirit, winged with desire, will cost my crown, and like an empty eagle tire on the flesh of me and my son.
Brother, though I be youngest, give me leave.
No, I can better play the orator.
But I have reason, strong and forcible.
Why, how now, sons, it's strife? What's your quarrel? How began it first?
No quarrel, but a slight contention.
About what?
About that which concerns your grace and us.
The crown of England, father, which is yours?
Mine, boy. Not till King Henry be dead.
Your right depends not on his life or death. Now you are heir, therefore enjoy it now. By giving the House of Lancaster leave to breathe, it will outrun your father in the end.
I took an oath that he should quietly reign.
But for a kingdom any oath may be broken. I would break 1,000 oaths to reign 1 year.
No, God forbid your grace should be forsworn.
I shall be if I claim by open war.
I'll prove the contrary, if you'll hear me speak.
Thou canst not, son, it's impossible.
An oath is of no moment, being not took before a true and lawful magistrate, that hath authority over him that swears. Henry had none, but did usurp the place. Therefore to arms. And father, do but think how sweet a thing it is to wear a crown. Why do we linger thus? I cannot rest until the white rose that I wear be dyed even in the lukewarm blood of Henry's heart.
Richard, enough. I will be king or die.
Yes!
But stay, what news? Why comest thou in such post?
The queen with all the northern earls and lords intend here to besiege you in your castle. She's hard by with 20,000 men, and therefore fortify your hold, my lord.
I, with my sword? What, thinkst thou that we fear?
A woman's general, what should we fear?
I hear their drums. Let's set our men in order and issue forth and bid them battle straight.
5 men to 20. Though the odds be great, I doubt not, Edward, of our victory. Many a battle have I won in France, when as the enemy hath been 10 to 1. Why should I not now have the like success?
Oh! Whither should I fly to escape their hands? Oh! Look where the bloody Clifford comes!
How now? Is he dead already? Or is fear that makes him close his eyes? I'll open them.
Gentle Clifford, kill me with thy sword, and not with such a cruel and threatening look. Sweet Clifford, hear me speak before I die. I am too mean a subject for thy wrath. If thou be revenged on men, and let me live.
In vain thou speak'st, poor boy. My father's blood hath stopped the passage where thy words should enter.
Then let my father's blood open it again. He is a man, and Clifford cope with him.
And I, thy brethren here, their lives and thine were not revenge sufficient for me. The sight of any of the house of York is as a fury to torment my soul, until I root out their accursed line and leave not one alive. I live in hell, therefore...
Oh, let me pray before I take my death. To thee, I pray, sweet Clifford, pity me.
Such pity as my rapier's point affords.
I never did thee harm. Why wilt thou slay me?
Thy father slew my father, therefore die.
Yeah!
Plantagenet, I come, Plantagenet, and this thy son's bloody cleaving to my blade shall rust upon my weapon till my blood, concealed with his, do make me wipe off both.
The army of the Queen hath got the field. My sons, God knows what hath bechanced them, but this I know, they have demeaned themselves like men born to renown by life or death. Hark, the fatal followers do pursue, and I am faint, and cannot fly their fury. The sands are numbered that make up my life. Here must I stay, and here my life must end.
Yield to our mercy, proud Plantagenet.
Aye, to such mercy as he showed unto my father.
What would your grace have done unto him now?
Come, make him stand upon this molehill here, that rotted mountains with outstretched arms, yet parted but the shadow with his hand. What? Was it you that would be England's king? Was it you that reveled in our parliament and made a preachment of your high descent? Where are your mess of sons to back you now? The wanton Edward and the lusty George? And where's that valiant crookback prodigy, Dicky, your boy, that with his grumbling voice was wont to cheer his dad in mutinies? Or with the rest, where is your darling Rutland? Look, York. I stained this napkin with the blood that valiant Clifford with his rapier's point made issue from the bosom of the boy. And if thine eyes can water for his death, I give thee this to dry thy cheeks withal. Alas, poor York, but that I hate thee deadly, I should lament thy miserable state. I prithee, grieve to make me merry, York. What, hath thy fiery heart so parched thine entrails that not a tear can fall for Rutland's death? Why art thou patient, man? Thou shouldst be mad. Stamp, rave, and fret, that I may sing and dance. Thou wouldst be feed, I see, to make me sport. York cannot speak unless he wear a crown. A crown for York, and lords bow low to him. Hold you his hands whilst I do set it on. Aye, marry, sir. Now looks he like a king. Aye, this is he that took King Henry's chair, and this is he was his adopted heir. But how is it that great Plantagenet is crowned so soon and broke his solemn oath? As I bethink me, you should not be king till our King Henry had shook hands with death. Oh, 'tis a fault too unpardonable. Off with the crown, and with the crown his head. And whilst we breathe, take time to do him dead.
That is my office, for my father's sake.
Nay, say, let's hear the orisons he makes.
She-wolf of France, but worse than wolves of France. How ill-beseeming is it in thy sex to triumph like an Amazonian troll upon their woes whom fortune captivates. It needs not, nor it boots thee not, proud queen. O tiger's heart wrapped in a woman's hide! How couldst thou drain the lifeblood of the child to bid the father wipe his eyes withal, and yet be seen to bear a woman's face? Women are soft, mild, pitiful, and flexible. Thou, stern, obdurate, flinty, rough, remorseless. Bidst thou me rage? Why now thou hast thy wish. Wouldst have me weep? Why, now thou hast thy will. These tears are my sweet Rutland's obsequies, and every drop cries vengeance for his death. Keep thou the napkin. Go boast of this, and if thou tell'st the heavy story right, upon my soul the hearers will shed tears. Yea, even my foes will shed fast falling tears and say, alas, it was a piteous deed. There, take the crown, and with the crown my curse, and in thy need such comfort come to thee as now I reap at thy too cruel hand. Hard-hearted Clifford, take me from the world, my soul to heaven, my blood upon your heads.
Had he been slaughter man to all my kin, I should not for my life but weep with him.
What, weeping right, my lord Northumberland? Think but upon the wrong he did us all, and that will quickly dry thy melting tears.
Here's for my oath. Here's for my father's death. Oh.
And here's to right our gentle-hearted king.
Open the gate of mercy, gracious God. My soul flies through these wounds to seek out thee.
Off with his head and set it on York gates, so York may overlook the town of York.
I wonder how our princely father scaped, or whether he be scaped away or no from Clifford's and Northumberland's pursuit. How fares my brother? Why is he so sad?
I cannot joy until I be resolved where our right valiant father is become. I saw him in the battle range about, as doth a bear encompassed round with dogs. So fared our father with his enemies. Methinks 'tis prize enough to be his son. See how the morning opes her golden gates, and takes her farewell of the glorious sun.
Dazzle mine eyes. Or do I see 3 sons?
3 glorious sons, each one a perfect son. See, they join, embrace, and seem to kiss, as if they vowed some league inviolable.
'Tis wondrous strange, the like yet never heard of. I think it cites us, brother, to the field, that we, the sons of brave Plantagenet, should overshine the earth, as this the world, whate'er it bodes. Henceforth will I bear upon my target 3 fair shining sons.
But what art thou, whose heavy looks foretell some dreadful story hanging on thy tongue?
One that was a woeful looker on when the noble Duke of York was slain.
Oh, speak no more, for I've heard too much.
Say how he died, for I will hear it all.
Environed he was with many foes. By many hands your father was subdued, and only slaughtered by the ireful arm of unrelenting Clifford and the Queen, who crowned the gracious Duke in high despite, laughed in his face, and when with grief he wept, the ruthless Queen gave him to dry his cheeks a napkin steeped in the harmless blood of sweet young Rutland, by rough Clifford slain. And after many scorns, many foul taunts, they took his head, and on the gates of York they set the same, and there it doth remain.
Sweet Duke of York, our prop to lean upon, now thou art gone. We have no staff, no stay. Never, never shall I see more joy.
I cannot weep, for all my body's moisture scarce serves to quench my furnace burning heart. To weep is to make less the depth of grief. Tears then for babes, blows and revenge for me. Richard, I bear thy name, I'll venge thy death.
His name that valiant Duke hath left with thee. His dukedom and his chair with me is left.
Nay, if thou be that princely eagle's bird, show thy descent by gazing against the sun. For chair and dukedom, throne and kingdom say.
Attend me, lords. The proud insulting Queen, with Clifford and the haught Northumberland, and of their feather many more proud birds, have wrought the easy melting king like wax. He swore consent to your succession, his oath enrolled in the Parliament, and now to London all the crew is gone, to frustrate both his oath and what beside may make against the house of Lancaster. Their power, I think, is 30,000 strong. Why, via! To London we will march amain, and once again bestride our foaming steeds, and once again cry, charge upon our foes, and never once again turn back and fly.
Lord Warwick, on thy shoulder will I lean.
Then King of England shalt thou be proclaimed in every borough as we pass along, and he that throws not up his cap for joy shall for the fault make forfeit of his head. King Edward, valiant Richard, Montague, stay we no longer, dreaming of renown, but sound the trumpets, and about our task.
And strike up, drums. God and St. George for us.
Now, what news?
The Duke of Norfolk sends you word by me. The Queen is coming with a puissant host, and craves your company for speedy counsel.
Why then it sorts. Brave warriors, let's away.
Welcome, my lord, to this brave town of York. Yonder's the head of that arch enemy that sought to be encompassed with your crown. Does not the object cheer your heart, my lord?
Aye, as the rocks cheer them that fear their wreck. To see this sight, it irks my very soul. Withhold revenge, dear God! 'Tis not my fault, nor wittingly have I infringed my vow.
My gracious liege, this too much lenity and harmful pity must be laid aside. Ambitious York doth level at thy crown. He, but a duke, would have a son a king, and raise his issue like a loving sire. Thou, being a king, blessed with a goodly son, didst yield consent to disinherit him, which argued thee a most unloving father. Were it not pity that this goodly boy should lose his birthright by his father's fault, and long hereafter say unto his child, what my great-grandfather and his grandsire got, my careless father fondly gave away?
But Clifford, tell me, didst thou never hear that things ill-got had ever bad success? I'll leave my son my virtuous deeds behind, and would my father had left me no more. Oh, cousin York, would thy best friends did know how it doth grieve me that thy head is there.
My lord, cheer up your spirits. Our foes are nigh, and this soft courage makes your followers faint. You promised knighthood to our forward son. Unsheath your sword and dub him presently. Edward, kneel down.
Edward Plantagenet, arise, a knight, and learn this lesson. Draw thy sword in right.
My gracious father, by your kingly leave, I'll draw it as an apparent to the crown, and in that quarrel use it to the death.
My God is spoken like a toward prince.
Royal commanders, be in readiness, for with a band of 30,000 men comes Warwick, backing of the Duke of York, and in the towns as they do march along proclaims him king, and many fly to him. Array your battle, for they are at hand.
I would your highness would depart the field, the queen hath best success when you are absent.
Aye, good my lord, and leave us to our fortune.
Why, that's my fortune too, therefore I'll stay.
Be it with resolution then to fight.
Now, perjured Henry, wilt thou kneel for grace and set thy diadem upon my head, or bide the mortal fortune of the field?
Go, rate thy minions, proud insulting boy. Becomes it thee to be thus bold in terms before thy sovereign and thy lawful king?
I am his king, and he should bow his knee. I was adopted heir by his consent. Since when his oath is broke, for as I hear, you, that are king, though he do wear the crown, have caused him by new act of parliament to blot out me and put his own son in.
And reason too, who should succeed the father but the son?
'Twas you that killed young Rutland, was it not?
Aye, and old York, not yet satisfied.
Break off the parley, for scarce I can refrain the execution of my big swollen heart upon that Clifford, that cruel child killer.
I slew thy father. Call'st thou him a child?
Have done with words, my lords, and hear me speak.
Defy them then, or else hold close thy lips.
I prithee give no limits to my tongue. I am king, and privileged to speak.
My liege, the wound that plagued this meeting here cannot be cured by words. Therefore, be still.
Since thou deniest the gentle king to speak, not willing any longer conference, then in this resolution I defy thee. Sound, trumpets, let our bloody colors wave, and either victory or else a grave.
Stay, Edward.
No wrangling woman will no longer stay. These words will cost 10,000 lives this day.
Yeah!
Ha!
This battle fares like to the morning's war, when dying clouds contend with growing light. What time the shepherd, blowing of his nails, can neither call it perfect day or night. Now sways it this way like the mighty sea, forced by the tide to combat with the wind. Now sways it that way like the self-same sea, forced to retire by fury of the wind. Sometime the flood prevails, and then the wind. Now one the better, then another best, both tugging to be victors, breast to breast, yet neither conqueror nor conquered. So is the equal of this fell war. Here on this molehill will I sit me down. To whom God will, there be the victory. For Margaret, my queen, and Clifford too, have chid me from the battle, swearing both they prosper best of all when I am thence. Would I were dead, if God's good will were so. For what is in this world but grief and woe? Oh God, methinks it were a happy life to be no better than a homely swain, to sit upon a hill as I do now, to carve out dials quaintly point by point, thereby to see the minutes how they run. How many make the hour full complete? How many hours bring about the day? How many days will finish up the year? How many years a mortal man may live? When this is known, then to divide the times. So many hours must I tend my flock, so many hours must I take my rest, so many hours must I contemplate, so many hours must I sport myself. So many days my ewes have been with young, so many weeks ere till the poor fools will eat, so many years ere I shall shear the fleece. So minutes, hours, days, months, and years passed over to the end they were created, would bring white hairs unto a quiet grave. Oh, what a life for this! How sweet, how lovely. Gives not the hawthorn bush a sweeter shade to shepherds looking on their silly sheep than doth a rich embroidered canopy to kings that fear their subjects' treachery? Oh, yes, it doth. 1,000-fold it doth.
Ill blows the wind that profits nobody. This man whom hand to hand I slew in fight may be possessed with some store of crowns. And I that haply take them from him now may yet ere night yield both my life and them to some man else, as this dead man doth me. Who's this? Oh God. It is my father's face, whom in this conflict I unawares have killed. Oh, heavy times begetting such offense. From London by the king was I pressed forth, my father being the Earl of Warwick's man. Came on the part of York, pressed by his master, and I who at his hands received my life, have by my hands of life bereaved. Pardon me, God, I do know what I did. And pardon, Father, for I knew not thee.
Oh, dear spectacle. Oh, bloody times. While lions roar and battle in their dens, poor harmless lambs abide their enmity. Weep, wretched man. I'll aid thee tear for tear, and let our hearts and eyes like war be blind with tears and break or charged with grief.
Thou that so stoutly hast resisted me, give me thy gold if thou hast any gold, for I have bought it with 100 blows. But let me see, is this our foeman's face? No, no, no! It is my only son! Oh boy! No, is there any light be in me? Throw up thine eye and see what showers arise. Oh, on the windy tempest of my heart, upon thy wounds that kills mine eye, and oh no, pity! God, this miserable age! What stratagems I'll butchery, erroneous mutness, and unnatural, this deadly quarrel daily doth beget.
Grief more than common. Oh, that my death would see these full deeds. Oh, pity, pity, gentle heaven, pity. The red rose and the white are on his face, the fatal colors of our striving houses. The one his purple right well resembles, the other his pale cheeks, my think, presenteth. Wither one rose, and let the other flourish. If you contend, 1,000 lives must wither.
How will my mother for her father's death take on with me and ne'er be satisfied?
How will my wife for slaughter of my son shed seas of tears and ne'er be satisfied?
How will the country for these woeful chances misthink the king and not be satisfied?
Was ever son so rude a father's death?
Was ever father so bemoaned his son?
Was ever king so grieved for subjects' woe? Much is your sorrow, mine 10 times so much.
I'll bear thee hence, where I may weep my fill.
These arms of mine shall be thy winding sheet, my heart, sweet boy, shall be thy sepulchre. My sighing breast shall be thy funeral bell. I'll bear thee hence, let them fight that will. For I have murdered where I should not kill.
Sad-hearted men, much overgone with care, here sits a king more woeful than you are.
Fly, father, fly, for all your friends are fled. Away, for death doth hold us in pursuit.
Mount you, my lord, towards barrack post amain.
Nay, stay not to expostulate, make speed.
Nay, take me with thee, good sweet Exeter. Not that I fear to stay, but love to go whither the queen intends. Forward, away!
Here. Here, burn my candle out. Here it dies, which, whiles it lasted, gave King Henry light. Oh, Lancaster, I fear thy overthrow more than my body parting with my soul. And Henry, hadst thou stayed as king should, true, giving no ground unto the house of York, they never then had sprung like summer flies. I and 10,000 in this luckless realm had left no mourning widows for our death. And thou, this day, hadst kept thy chair in peace. For what makes robbers bold but too much lenity? Bliss or plates, careless are my wounds. No way to fly, nor strength to hold out flight. The foe is merciless and will not pity. Oh, the air hath got into my deadly wounds, and much effusive blood doth make me faint. Oh, come, York and Richard, Warwick and the rest. I stabbed your father's bosom, split my breast.
Now breathe, my lords. Good fortune bids us pause and smooth the frowns of war with peaceful looks. Some troops pursue the bloody-minded queen. But think you, lords, that Clifford fled with them?
No, 'tis impossible he should escape. Your brother Richard marked him for the grave, and wheresoe'er he is, he's surely dead.
Whose soul is that which takes a heavy leave? A deadly groan, like life and death's departing.
See who it is. And now the battle's ended. If friend or foe, let him be gently used.
Revoke that doom of mercy, for 'tis Clifford, who, not contented that he lopped the branch in hewing Rutland when his leaves put forth, but set his murdering knife to the root, from whence that tender spray did sweetly spring. I mean our princely father, Duke of York.
I think his understanding is bereft, and he nor sees nor hears us what we say.
Oh, would he did, and so perhaps he doth. 'Tis but his policy to counterfeit, because he would avoid such bitter taunts which in the time of death he gave our father.
If so thou think'st, vexed him with eager words.
Clifford, ask mercy and obtain no grace.
Clifford, repent in bootless penitence.
Thou didst love York, and I am son to York.
Thou pitiedst Rutland, I will pity thee.
Where's Captain Margaret to fence you now?
They mock thee, Clifford. Swear as thou wast wont.
What? Not an oath? Nay then, the world goes hard when Clifford cannot spare his friends an oath. I know by that he's dead.
From off the gates of York fetch down the head, your father's head, which Clifford placed there. Instead whereof let this supply the room. Measure for measure must be answered, and now to London with triumphant march, there to be crowned England's royal king. From whence shall Warwick cut the sea to France, and ask the Lady Bona for thy queen? So shalt thou sinew both these lands together, and having France thy friend, thou shalt not dread the scattered foe that hopes to rise again. First will I see the coronation, and then to Brittany I'll cross the sea to effect this marriage. So it please my lord.
Even as thou wilt, sweet Warwick, let it be. For never will I undertake a thing wherein thy counsel and consent is wanting. Richard, I will create thee Duke of Gloucester and George of Clarence, now to London, to see these honours in possession.
Under this thick-grown brake we'll shroud ourselves, and through this land anon the deer will come. Here, stand we both, and aim we at the beast.
Here comes a man. Let's stay till he be past.
From Scotland am I stolen, even of pure love, to create mine own land with my wishful sight. No, Harry, Harry, it is no land of thine. Thy place is filled, thy sceptre wrung from thee, thy balm washed off wherewith thou wast anointed. No bending knee will call thee Caesar now, no humble suitors press to speak for right. No, not a man comes for redress of thee, for how can I help them and not myself? My queen and son are gone to France for aid, and as I hear, the great commanding Warwick is thither gone to crave the French king's sister for wife for Edward. If this news be true, poor queen and son, your labour is but lost, for Warwick is a subtle orator, and Lewis a king soon won with moving words.
Hey, what art thou that talkst of kings and queens?
More than I seem, and less than I was born to. A man, at least, for less I should not be, and men may talk of kings, why not I?
Aye, but thou talkst as if thou wert a king.
Why, so I am, in mind, and that's enough.
But if thou be a king, where is thy crown?
My crown is in my heart, not on my head, not decked with diamonds and Indian stones, nor to be seen. My crown is called content, a crown it is that seldom kings enjoy.
Well, if you be a king crowned with content, you're crowned content, and you must be contented to go along with us. For as we think, you are the king King Edward hath deposed, and we as subjects sworn in all allegiance will apprehend you as his enemy.
But did you never swear and break an oath?
No, never such an oath, nor will not now.
Where did you dwell when I was king of England?
Here in this country where we now remain.
I was anointed king at 9 months old. My father and my grandfather were kings, and you were sworn true subjects unto me. And tell me then, have you not broke your oaths?
No, for we were subjects but while you were king.
What? Am I dead? Do I not breathe a treason. You know not what you swear. Look, as I blow this feather from my face, and as the air blows it to me again, obeying with my wind when I do blow, and yielding to another when it blows, commanded always by the greater gust, such is the lightness of you common men. But do not break your oaths. Oh, for of that sin my mild entreaty shall not make you guilty. Go where you will, your king shall be commanded.
We are true subjects to the king, King Edward.
So would you be again to Henry if he were seated as King Edward is?
We charge you in God's name and the king's to go with us unto the officers.
Oh, in God's name, lead. Your king's name be obeyed, and what God's will, let that your king perform, and what he will, I humbly yield unto.
Brother of Gloucester, at St. Albans Field, this lady's husband, Sir Richard Grey, was slain. His lands then seized on by the conqueror. Her suit is now to repossess those lands, which we in justice cannot well deny, because in quarrel of the house of York the worthy gentleman did lose his life.
Your Highness shall do well to grant her suit. It were dishonour to deny it, huh?
It were no less. But yet I'll make a pause.
I see the lady hath a thing to grant before the king will grant her humble suit.
He knows the game. How true he keeps the wind.
Silence.
Widow, we will consider of your suit, and come some other time to know our mind.
Right, gracious lord, I cannot brook delay. May it please your highness to resolve me now, and what your pleasure is shall satisfy me.
How many children hast thou, widow? Tell me.
3, my most gracious lord.
You shall have 4 if you'll be ruled by him.
For pity they should lose their father's lands.
Be pitiful, dread lord, and grant it then.
Lords, give us leave. I'll try this widow's wit. Now tell me, madam, do you love your children?
Aye, full as dearly as I love myself.
And would you not do much to do them good?
To do them good I would sustain some harm.
Then get your husband's lands to do them some good.
Therefore I came unto your majesty.
I'll tell you how those lands are to be got.
So shall you bind me to your highness' service.
What service wilt thou do me if I give them?
What you command, that rests in me to do.
But you will take exceptions to my boon.
No, gracious lord, except I cannot do it.
Aye, but thou canst do what I mean to ask.
Why then I will do what your grace commands. Why stops, my lord? Shall I not hear my task?
An easy task. 'Tis but to love a king.
That's soon performed, because I am a subject.
Within thy husband's lands I freely give thee.
I take my leave with many thousand thanks.
But stay thee, 'tis the fruits of love, I mean.
The fruits of love I mean, my loving liege.
Aye, but I fear me in another sense. What love thinkst thou I sue so much to get?
My love till death, my humble thanks, my prayers, that love which virtue begs and virtue grants.
No, by my troth, I do not mean such love.
Why then you did not mean as I thought you did.
But now you partly may perceive my mind.
My mind will never grant what I perceive your highness aims at if I aim right.
I'll tell thee plain, I aim to lie with thee.
To tell you plain, I'd rather lie in prison.
Why then, thou shalt not have thy husband's lands.
Why then mine honesty shall be my dower, for by that loss I will not purchase them.
Therein thou wrongst thy children mightily.
Herein your highness wrongs both them and me. But, mighty lord, this merry inclination accords not with the sadness of my suit. Please you dismiss me either with aye or no.
Aye, if thou wilt say aye to my request. No, if thou dost say no to my demand.
Then no, my lord, my suit is at an end.
The widow likes him not, she knits her brows.
He is the bluntest wooer in Christendom.
Say that King Edward take thee for his queen.
'Tis better said than done, my gracious lord. I am a subject fit to jest withal, but far unfit to be a sovereign.
Sweet widow, by my state I swear to thee, I speak no more than what my soul intends, and that is to enjoy thee for my love.
And that is more than I will yield unto. I know I am too mean to be your queen, and yet too good to be your concubine.
Cavil, widow, I did mean my queen.
'Twill grieve your grace my son should call you father.
No more than when my daughters call thee mother. Thou art a widow, and thou hast some children, and by God's mother, I being but a bachelor, have other some. Why, 'tis a happy thing to be the father unto many sons. Answer no more, for thou shalt be my queen. Brothers, you muse what chat we two have had.
The widow likes it not, for she looks very sad.
You'll think it strange if I should marry her?
To whom, my lord?
By Clarence, to myself.
That would be 10 days' wonder at the least.
That's a day longer than a wonder lasts.
So much as the wonder in extremes.
Well, jest on, brothers. I can tell you both. Her suit is granted for her husband's lands.
My gracious lord, Henry your foe is taken, and brought your prisoner to your palace gate.
See that he be conveyed unto the tower, and go we, brothers, to the man that took him, to question of his apprehension. Widow, go you along. Lords, use her handsomely.
Aye, Edward will use women honourably. Would he were wasted, marrow, bones and all, that from his loins no hopeful branch may spring, to cross me from the golden time I look for. And yet, between my soul's desire and me, the lustful Edward's title buried is Clarence, Henry, and his son, young Edward, and all the unlooked-for issue of their bodies. Well, say there is no kingdom then for Richard. What other pleasure can the world afford? I'll make my heaven in a lady's lap, and deck my body in gay ornaments, and witch sweet ladies with my words and looks. Miserable thought! And more unlikely than to accomplish 20 golden crowns. Love forswore me in my mother's womb. She did corrupt frail nature with some bribe, to shrink mine arm up like a withered shrub, to make an envious mountain on my back, to shape my legs of an unequal size, to disproportion me in every part. And am I then a man to be beloved? Then, since this earth affords no joy to me, I'll make my heaven to dream upon the crown. And yet I know not how to get the crown, for many lives stand between me and home. And I, like one lost in a thorny wood that rends the thorns and is rent with the thorns, seeking a way and straying from the way, not knowing how to find the open air, torment myself to catch the English crown. And from that torment I will free myself, or hew my way out with a bloody axe. Why, I can smile and murder while I smile, and cry content to that which grieves my heart, and wet my cheeks with artificial tears, and frame my face to all occasions. I can add colours to the chameleon, change shapes with Proteus for advantages, and set the murderous Machiavel to school. Can I do this, and cannot get a crown? Ta! Were it farther off, I'll pluck it down!
Fair Queen of England, worthy Margaret, sit down with us. Ill befits thy state and birth that thou shouldst stand while Louise does sit.
Oh, no, mighty King of France. Now Margaret must strike her sail and learn a while to serve where kings command. I was, I must confess, great Albion's queen in former golden days, but now mischance hath trod my title down.
Be plain, Queen Margaret, and tell thy grief. It shall be eased if France can yield relief.
Those gracious words revive my drooping thoughts and give my tongue-tied sorrows leave to speak. Now, therefore, be it known to noble Louis that Henry is become a banished man, while proud, ambitious Edward, Duke of York, usurps the regal title and the seat of England's true anointed. true anointed lawful king. This is the cause that I, poor Margaret, with this my son, Prince Edward, Henry's heir, am come to crave thy just and lawful aid, and if thou fail us, all our hope is done.
Mounted Queen, with patience, calm the storm, while we bethink a means to break it off.
The more we stay, the stronger grows our foe.
The more I stay, the more I'll succor thee.
Oh, but impatience waiteth on true sorrow. And see where comes the breeder of my sorrow.
But he approacheth boldly to our presence.
Our Earl of Warwick, Edward's greatest friend.
Welcome, brave Warwick. What brings thee to France?
From worthy Edward, King of Albion, my lord and sovereign, and thy vowed friend, I come in kindness and unfeigned love. First to do greetings to thy royal person, and then to crave a league of amity. And lastly, to confirm that amity with a nuptial knot, if thou vouchsafe to grant that virtuous Lady Bona, thy fair sister, to England's king in lawful marriage.
If that go forward, Henry's hope is done.
And, gracious madam, in our king's behalf, I am commanded, with your leave and favour, humbly to kiss your hand, and with my tongue to tell the passion of my sovereign's heart, where fame, late entering at his heedful ears, hath placed thy beauty's image and thy virtue.
King Louis and Lady Bona, hear me speak before you answer Warwick. His demand springs not from Edward's well-meant honest love, but from deceit bred by necessity. For how can tyrants safely govern home unless abroad they purchase great alliance?
Injurious Margaret.
And why not Queen?
Because thy father Henry did usurp, and thou no more art prince than she is queen.
Queen Margaret and Prince Edward vouchsafe at our request to stand aside while I use further conference with Warwick. Now, Warwick, tell me, even upon thy conscience, is Edward your true king? For I were loath to link with him that were not lawfully chosen.
Thereon I pawn my credit and mine honour.
But is he gracious in the people's eye?
The more than Henry was unfortunate.
Then further, all dissembling set aside, tell me for truth the measure of his love unto our sister, Bona.
Such it seems as may beseem a monarch like himself. Myself have often heard him say and swear that this his love was an eternal plant, whereof the root was fixed in virtue's ground, the leaves and fruit maintained with beauty's sun, exempt from envy, but not from disdain, unless the Lady Bona quit his pain.
Now, sister, let us hear your firm resolve.
Your grant or your denial shall be mine. Yet I confess that often ere this day, when I have heard your king's desert recounted, mine ear hath tempted judgment to desire.
Then, Warwick, thus, our sister shall be Edward's. Draw near, Queen Margaret, and be a witness that Bona shall be wife to the English king.
To Edward, but not to the English king.
Deceitful Warwick. It was thy device by this alliance to make void my suit. Before thy coming, Louis was Henry's friend.
And still is friend to him and Margaret. But if your title to the crown be weak, as may appear by Edward's good success, then 'tis but recent that I be released from giving aid which late I promised. Yet shall you have all kindness at my hand that your estate requires and mine can yield.
Henry now lives in Scotland at his ease, where, having nothing, nothing can he lose. And as for you yourself, our quondam queen, you have a father able to maintain you, and better 'twere you troubled him than France.
Peace, impudent and shameless Warwick, peace. Proud setter up and puller down of kings. I will not hence till, with my talk and tears, both full of truth, I make King Louis behold thy sly conveyance and thy lord's false love. For both of you are birds of self-same feather.
My Lord Ambassador, these letters are for you. These from our king unto your majesty, and madam, these for you, from who I know not.
What? Is your king married to the Lady Grey? Is this the alliance that he seeks with France? Dare he presume to scorn us in this manner?
I told your majesty as much before. This proveth Edward's love and Warwick's honesty.
King Louis, I here protest, in sight of heaven, that I am clear from this misdeed of Edward's, and to repair my honour lost for him, I here renounce him and return to Henry. My noble queen, let former grudges pass, and henceforth I am thy true servitor. I will revenge his wrong to Lady Bona, and replant Henry in his former state.
Warwick, these words have turned my hate to love, and I forgive and quite forget old faults, and joy that thou becomest King Henry's friend.
So much his friend, I his unfeigned friend, that if King Louis vouchsafe to furnish us with some few bands of chosen soldiers, I'll undertake to land them on our coast and force the tyrant from his seat by war.
Dear brother, how shall Bona be revenged, but by the help of this distressed queen?
Renowned prince, how shall poor Henry live unless thou rescue him from foul despair?
My quarrel and this English queen's are one.
And mine, fair Lady Bona, joins with yours.
And mine with hers, and thine, and Margaret's. Therefore, at last, I firmly am resolved you shall have aid. Why stay we now? I long till Edward fall by war's mischance for mocking marriage with a dame of France.
Now, tell me, Brother Clarence, what think you of this new marriage with the Lady Grey?
Alas, you know, 'tis far from hence to France. How could he stay till Warwick made return?
Here comes the king and his well-chosen bride.
I mind to tell him plainly what I think.
Brother of Clarence, how like you our choice, that you stand pensive as half malcontent?
As well as Louis of France, or Earl of Warwick, which are so weak of courage and in judgment, that they'll take no offense at our abuse.
Suppose they take offense without a cause. They are but Louis and Warwick. I am Edward, your king and Warwick's, and must have my will.
And you shall have your will, because our king, yet hasty marriage seldom proveth well.
Yeah, Brother Richard, are you offended too?
Not I, no, God forbid that I should wish them severed, whom God hath joined together. Aye, and 'twere pity to sunder them that yoke so well together.
Setting your scorns and your mislike aside, tell me some reason why the Lady Grey should not become my wife and England's queen.
Then this is mine opinion, that King Louis becomes your enemy for mocking him, and the marriage of the Lady Bona.
And Warwick, doing what you gave in charge, is now dishonoured by this new marriage.
In choosing for yourself, you showed your judgment, which being shallow, you give me leave to play the broker on mine own behalf. And to that end, I shortly mind to leave you.
Leave me? Or tarry? Edward will be king, and not be tied unto his brother's will.
My lords, before it pleased his majesty to raise my state to title of a queen, do me but right, and you all must confess that I was not ignoble of descent, and meaner than myself have had like fortune. But as this title honours me and mine, so your dislike to whom I would be pleasing doth cloud my joys with danger and with sorrow.
My love, forbear to fawn upon their frowns. What danger or what sorrow can befall thee, so long as Edward is thy constant friend, and their true sovereign, whom they must obey? Nay, whom they shall obey, and love thee, too, unless they seek for hatred at my hands. Now, messenger, what letters or what news from France?
My sovereign liege, no letters and few words, but such as I, without your special pardon, dare not relate.
Go to, we pardon thee. Therefore, in brief, what answer makes King Louis unto our letters?
At my depart, these were his very words. Go tell false Edward, thy supposed king, that Louis of France is sending over maskers to revel it with him and his new bride.
Is Louis so brave? Belike he thinks me Henry. But what said Warwick to these injuries?
He, more incensed against your majesty than all the rest, discharged me with these words. Tell him from me that he hath done me wrong, and therefore I'll uncrown him ere it be long.
Durst the traitor breathe out so proud words? Well, I will arm me, being thus forewarned. They shall have wars, and pay for their presumption. But say, is Warwick friends with Margaret?
Aye, gracious sovereign.
Now, brother King, farewell, and sit you fast, for I will hence to Warwick and his might.
Yet am I armed against the worst can happen. Now, Brother Richard, will you stand by us?
Aye, and despite of all that shall withstand you.
Why so? Then am I sure of victory. Now therefore let us hence, and lose no hour, till we meet Warwick with his foreign power.
Trust me, my lord, all hitherto goes well. The common people by numbers swarm to us.
Fear not, fear not.
See where Somerset and Clarence come. Speak suddenly, my lord. Are we all friends?
Fear not, fear not, fear not, fear not. Fear not.
And welcome, Clarence. And now what rest but in night's coverture, thy brother being carelessly encamped, his soldiers lurking in the towns about, and but attended by simple guard, we may surprise and take him at our pleasure. Our scouts have found the adventure very easy, so we, well covered with the knight's black mantle, at unawares may beat down Edward's guard and seize himself. I say not slaughter him, for I intend only to surprise him. You that will follow me to this attempt, applaud the name of Henry with your leader.
Henry!
Henry! My masters, each man take his stand. The king, by this, is set him down to sleep.
What, will he not to bed?
Why no, for he hath made a solemn vow never to lie and take his natural rest till Warwick or himself be quite suppressed.
Tomorrow then belike shall be the day if Warwick be so near as man report.
Oh, is it so? But who commands the king that his chief followers lodge in towns about him, while he himself keeps in a cold field?
'Tis the more honour because more dangerous.
Oh, if Warwick knew it, what a state he stands, 'tis to be doubted he would waken him.
Unless our halberds did shut up his passage.
Aye, wherefore else guard we his royal tent, but to defend his person from night foes?
This is his tent, and see where stand his guard. Courage, my masters. Honour, now or never. But follow me, and Edward shall be ours.
Who goes there?
Say, or thou diest!
What do they let fly there?
Richard and Hastings, let them go. Here's the Duke.
The Duke? Why, Warwick, when we parted, thou calledst me king.
Aye, but the case is altered when you disgraced me in my embassage. Then I degraded you from being king, and come now to create you Duke of York. Alas, how should you govern any kingdom that know not how to use ambassadors, nor how to be contented with one wife?
Yeah, brother of Clarence, art thou here too? Nay, then I see that Edward needs must down. Yet, Warwick, in despite of all mischance, Edward will always bear himself as king. Though fortune's malice overthrow my state, my mind exceeds the compass of her wheel.
Then for his mind, be Edward England's king. But Henry now shall wear the English crown, and be true king indeed, thou but the shadow. Now for a while farewell, good Duke of York.
What fates impose, that men must needs abide. It boots not to resist both wind and tide.
And now, the first thing we have to do to free King Henry from imprisonment and see him seated in the regal throne.
Madam, what makes you in this sudden change?
Why, Brother Rivers, are you yet to learn what late misfortune has befallen King Edward?
What? Is my sovereign slain?
I almost slain, for he is taken prisoner, and, as I further have to understand, is new committed to the Bishop of York, fell Warwick's brother, and by that our foe.
Oh, these news, I must confess, are full of grief, yet, gracious madam, bear it as you may, Warwick may lose, that now hath won the day.
Aye, for this I draw in many a tear, and stop the rising of blood-sucking sighs, lest with my sighs or my tears I blast or drown King Edward's fruit, true heir to the English crown.
But madam, where is Warwick then become?
I am informed that he comes toward London to set the crown once more on Henry's head. I'll henceforth with him to the sanctuary to save at least the heir of Edward's right. Come, therefore, let us fly while we may fly. If Warwick take us, we are sure to die.
Now, my Lord Hastings and Sir William Stanley, thus stands the case. You know our king, my brother, is prisoner to the bishop here, at whose hands he hath good usage and great liberty, and often, but attended with weak guard, comes hunting this way to disport himself. I have advertised him by secret means that if about this hour he make his way under the colour of his usual game, he shall here find his friends, with horse and men, to set him free from his captivity.
This way, my lord, for this way lies the game.
They. This way, man. See where the huntsmen stand. Now, brother of Gloucester, Lord Hastings and the rest, stand you thus close to steal the bishop's deer?
Well guessed, believe me, for that was my meaning.
Brother, I will requite thy forwardness.
But wherefore stay we? 'Tis no time to talk.
Bishop, farewell, shield thee from Warwick's frown, and pray that I may repossess the crown.
Brave Warwick, after God thou sett'st me free, and chiefly therefore I thank God and thee. He was the author, thou the instrument, therefore that I may conquer fortune's spite by living low, where fortune cannot hurt me, and that the people of this blessed land may not be punished with my thwarting stars. Warwick, although my head still wear the crown, I here resign my government unto thee.
Your grace hath still been framed for virtuous, and now may seem as wise as virtuous. For few men rightly temper with their stars. Yet in this one thing let me blame your grace, for choosing me when Clarence is in place.
No, Warwick, thou art worthy of the sway, and therefore I yield thee my free consent.
And I choose Clarence only for protector.
Warwick and Clarence, give me both your hands. Now, join your hands, and with your hands your hearts. I make you both protectors of this land, and while I myself will lead a private life, and in devotion spend my latter days to sin's rebuke and my Creator's praise.
What answers Clarence to his sovereign's will?
That if he consents, if Warwick will yield consent, for on thy fortune I repose myself.
Why then, though loath, yet must I be content. We'll yoke together like a double shadow to Henry's body, and supply his place. And Clarence, now then it is more than needful forthwith that Edward be pronounced a traitor, and all his lands and goods be confiscate.
What else? And that succession be determined, eh?
Aye, therein Clarence shall not want his part.
But with the first of all your chief affairs, let me entreat, for I command no more, that Margaret, your queen, and my son Edward be sent for to return from France with speed. For till I see them here, by doubtful fear, my joy of liberty is half eclipsed.
It shall be done, my sovereign, with all speed.
My lord of Somerset, what youth is that of whom you seem to have so tender care?
Oh, my liege, it is young Henry, Earl of Richmond.
Come hither, England's hope. If secret powers suggest but truth to my divining thoughts, this pretty lad will prove our country's bliss. His looks are full of peaceful majesty, his head by nature framed to wear a crown. his hand to wield a scepter, and himself likely in time to bless a regal throne. Make much of him, my lords, for this is he, must help you more than you are hurt by me.
What news, my friend?
That Edward has escaped from your brother and fled, as he hears, since to Burgundy.
Unsavory news. How made he escape?
He was conveyed by Richard, Duke of Gloucester, and the Lord Hastings, who attended him in secret ambush on the forest side, and from the bishop's huntsmen rescued him, for hunting was his daily exercise.
My brother was too careless of his charge. In Coventry I have true-hearted friends, not mutinous in peace, yet bold in war. Those will I muster up. My sovereign, with the loving citizens, shall rest in London till we come to him. Farewell, my sovereign.
Farewell, my Hector and my Troy's true hope. Here at the palace I will rest a while.
My lord, I like not this flight of Edward's. We shall have more wars before long. As Henry's late presaging prophecy did glad my heart with hope of this young Richmond, so doth my heart misgive me in these conflicts what may befall him to his harm and ours. Therefore, Lord Oxford, to prevent the worst, forthwith will send him hence to Brittany, till storms be past of civil enmity.
Aye, if Edward repossess the crown, 'tis like that Richmond with the rest shall down.
It shall be so. He shall to Brittany. Come, therefore, let's about it speedily.
Cousin of Exeter, what thinks your lordship? Methinks the power that Edward hath in field should not be able to encounter mine.
The doubt is that he will seduce the rest.
That's not my fear. My meed hath got me fame. I have not stopped mine ears to their demands, nor posted off suits with slow delays. My pity hath been balm to heal their wounds. My mildness hath allayed their swelling griefs. My mercy dried their water-flowing tears. I have not been desirous of their wealth, nor much oppressed them with great subsidies, nor forward of revenge, though they much erred. Then why should they love Edward more than me? No, Exeter, these graces challenge grace, and when the lion fawns upon the lamb will never cease to follow him.
What shouts are these?
Seize on the shame-faced Henry, bear him hence, and once again proclaim us King of England. You are the fount that makes small brooks to flow. Now stops thy spring. My sea shall suck them dry, and swell so much in the higher by their ebb. Hence with him to the Tower. Let him not speak. And lords, toward Coventry bend we our course, where peremptory Warwick now remains. The sun shines hot, and if we use delay, cold biting winter mars our hoped-for hay.
Those warriors march amain towards Coventry!
Where is the post that came from valiant Oxford? How far off is our brother Montague? Say, Somerville, how nigh is Clarence now? Is Somerset at hand? Is that his drum?
The drum your honour hears is not his, my lord.
Well, who should that be? Be like unlooked for, unlooked for.
Surly Warwick mans the wall.
Go, trumpet, to the walls and sound a parle.
Oh, unbid spite. Is sportful Edward come? Where slept our scouts, or how are they seduced that we could hear no news of his repair?
Now, Warwick, wilt thou ope the city gates? Speak gentle words, and humbly bend thy knee? Call Edward king, and at his hands beg mercy, and he shall pardon thee these outrages.
Nay, rather wilt thou draw thy forces hence. Confess who set thee up and pluck thee own. Call Warwick patron and be penitent, and thou shalt still remain the Duke of York.
I thought at least he would have said the king.
'Twas I that gave the kingdom to thy brother. And, weakling, Warwick takes his gift again, and Henry is my king, Warwick his subject.
But Warwick's king is Edward's prisoner, and 10 to 1, you'll meet him at the Tower.
Come, Warwick, take the time. Kneel down, kneel down.
I had rather chop this hand off at a blow, and with the other fling it at thy face, than bear so low a sail to strike to thee.
Sail how thou canst, have wind and tide thy friend. This hand, fast wound about thy coal-black hair, shall whiles my head is warm, and shall whiles thy head is warm, and you cut off, right in the dust, this sentence of thy blood. Wind-changing Warwick now can change no more.
Oh, cheerful fellows, see where Oxford comes!
Oxford!
Oxford
for Lancaster!
Oh, welcome, Oxford, for we need thy help.
Montague for Lancaster!
Somerset for Lancaster!
And lo, where George of Clarence sweeps along of force enough to bid his brother battle, with whom an upright zeal to right prevails more than the nature of a brother's love. Come, Clarence,
Clarence!
come. Thou wilt if Warwick call.
Clarence, Clarence, Clarence for Lancaster.
Tu, Brute? Wilt thou stab Caesar so? A parley, sirrah, to George of Clarence.
Father of Warwick, know you what this means? Look here. I throw my infamy at thee. Oh, I will not ruminate my father's house who gave his blood to lime the stones together and set up Lancaster. Why trowest thou, Warwick, that Clarence is so harsh, so blunt, so unnatural to bend the fatal instruments of war against his brother and his lawful king? Oh, I am so sorry for my trespass, made that to deserve well at my brother's hands. I here proclaim myself thy mortal foe, and so, proud-hearted Warwick, I defy thee, and to my brother turn my blushing cheeks. Pardon me, Edward. I will make amends, and Richard, do not frown upon my faults, for I will henceforth be no more unconstant.
No, welcome more, and 10 times more beloved than if thou never hadst deserved our hate.
Welcome, good Clarence. This is brother-like.
Oh, passing traitor, perjured and unjust. I'll bid thee battle, Edward, if thou darest.
Yes, Warwick, Edward dares and leads the way. Lords, to the field. St. George and victory. So lie thou there. Die thou, and die our fear, for Warwick was a bug that feared us all.
Ah, who's nigh? Come to me, friend or foe, and tell me who is victor, York or Warwick? Why ask I that? My mangled body shows that I must yield my body to the earth, and by my fall the conquest to my foe. Thus yields the cedar to the axe's edge, whose arms gave shelter to the princely eagle. The wrinkles in my brows, now filled with blood, were likened oft to kingly sepulchres. For who lived king but I could dig his grave? And who durst smile when Warwick bent his brow? Lo, now my glory smeared in dust and blood. Why, what is pomp, rule, reign, but earth and dust? And live how we can, yet die we must.
Thus far our fortune keeps an upward course, and we are graced with wreaths of victory. But in the midst of this bright shining day, I spy a black, suspicious, threatening cloud. I mean, my lords, those powers that the Queen hath raised in Gallia have arrived our coast, and as we hear, march on to fight with us.
The Queen is valued 30,000 strong. If she have time to breathe, be well assured her faction will be full as strong as ours.
We're advertised by our loving friends that they do hold their course toward Tewkesbury. Strike up the drum, cry courage, and away.
Brave lords, wise men ne'er sit and wail their loss, but cheerly seek how to redress their harms. What though the mast be now blown o'erboard, the cable broke, the holding anchor lost, and half our sailors swallowed in the flood? Yet lives our pilot still. What a fault were this! Say Warwick was our anchor. What of that? Why is not Oxford here another anchor? And though unskillful, why not Ned and I, for once, allowed the skillful pilot's charge? We will not from the helm to sit and weep, but keep our course, though the rough winds say no, from shelves and rocks that threaten us with wreck. As good to chide the waves as speak them fair. And what is Edward but a ruthless sea? What Clarence but a quicksand of deceit? And Richard but a ragged fatal rock? Why, courage then! What cannot be avoided, 'twere childish weakness to lament or fear.
Methinks a woman of this valiant spirit should, if a coward heard her speak these words, infuse his breast with magnanimity and make him naked foil a man at arms.
Women and children of so high a courage, and warriors, why 'twere perpetual shame. Oh, brave young prince, thy famous grandfather doth live in thee again. Long mayest thou live, bear his image and renew his glories.
And he that will not fight for such a hope, go home to bed, and like the owl by day, if he arise, be mocked and wondered at.
Prepare you, lords, for Edward is at hand.
I thought no less. It is his policy to haste thus fast to find us unprovided.
He's deceived. We are in readiness.
Here, pitch our battle. Hence we will not budge.
Brave followers, yonder stands the thorny wood, which by the heavens' assistance and your strength must by the roots be hewn up yet ere night. I need not add more fuel to your fire, for well I wot you blaze to burn them out. Give signal to the fight, and to it, lords.
Lords, knights, and gentlemen, what I should say my tears gainsay, for every word I speak, ye see I drink the water of mine eyes. Therefore, no more but this. Henry, your sovereign, is prisoner to the foe, his state usurped, his realm a slaughterhouse, his subjects slain, and yonder is the wolf that makes this spoil. You fight injustice, then, in God's name, lords. Be valiant and give signal to the fight!
Bring forth the gallant. Let us hear him speak. What? Can so young a thorn begin to prick? Edward, what satisfaction canst thou make for bearing arms, for stirring up my subjects and all the trouble thou hast turned me to?
Speak like a subject, proud, ambitious York. Suppose that I am now my father's mouth. Resign thy chair, and where I stand, kneel thou, whilst I propose the selfsame words to thee, which traitor thou wouldst have me answer to.
That thy father had been so resolved.
That you might still have worn the petticoat and there have stolen the breech from Lancaster. For God's sake, take away this captive scold.
Nay, take away the scolding crookback, rather.
Peace, wilful boy, or I will charm your tongue.
Untutored lad, thou art too malapert.
I know my duty. You are all undutiful. Lascivious Edward, and that perjured George, and thou misshapen Dick, I tell ye all, I am your better. Traitors as ye are. And now you service my father's right and mine.
Take that. A likeness of this railer here.
Rules thou, take that to end thy agony.
And there's for twitting me with perjury.
Oh, kill me too.
Marry and shall.
Hold, Richard, hold. For
But
we've
why
done...
should she fill the world with words?
What? Does she use means for her recovery?
Clarence, excuse me to the king, my brother. I'll hence to London on a serious matter. Ere ye come there, be sure to hear some news.
What?
The tower! The tower!
Oh, Ned. Sweet Ned. Speak to thy mother, boy. Canst thou not speak? Oh, traitors, murderers! They that stabbed Caesar shed no blood at all, did not offend, nor were not worthy blame, if this foul deed were by to equal it. He was a man, this in respect a child, and men ne'er spend their fury on a child. What's worse than murderer, that I may name it? Butchers and villains, bloody cannibals! The plant have you untimely cropped. You have no children, butchers. If you had, the thought of them would have stirred up remorse. But if you ever chance to have a child, look, in his youth to have him so cut off as deathmen, you have rid this sweet young prince.
Away with her. Go bear her hence perforce.
Nay, never bear me hence, dispatch me here. Here, sheath thy sword, I'll pardon thee my death. What, wilt thou not? Then Clarence, do it thou.
By heaven, I will not do thee so much ease.
Good Clarence, do. Sweet Clarence, do thou do it.
Didst thou not hear me swear I would not do it?
Aye, but thou usest to forswear thyself. 'Twas sin before, but now 'tis charity.
Away, I say, I charge ye, bear her hence.
So come to you and yours, as to this prince.
Where's Richard gone?
To London, all in post, and as I guess, to make a bloody supper in the Tower.
He's sudden if a thing comes in his head. Now march we hence, discharge the common sort with pay and thanks, and let's away to London, and see our gentle queen, how well she fares. By this, I hope she hath a son for me.
Good day, my lord. What, at your book so hard?
Aye, my good lord. My lord, I should say rather, 'tis sin to flatter. Good was little better. Good Gloucester and good devil were alike, and both preposterous, therefore not good lord. But wherefore dost thou come? Is it for my life?
Think'st thou I am an executioner?
A persecutor, I am sure thou art. If murdering innocents be executing, why then thou art an executioner.
Thy son I killed for his presumption.
Hadst thou been killed, when first thou didst presume, thou hadst not lived to kill a son of mine. And thus I prophesy that many a thousand which now mistrust no parcel of my fear, and many an old man's sigh, and many a widow's and many an orphan's water-standing eye, men for their sons, wives for their husbands, and orphans for their parents' timeless death, shall rue the hour that ever thou wast born. The owl shrieked at thy birth, an evil sign. The night crow cried, a boding luckless time. Dogs howled, and hideous tempests shook down trees. Thy mother felt more than a mother's pain, and yet brought forth less than a mother's hope. To wit, an indigested and deformed lump, not like the fruit of such a goodly tree. Teeth hadst thou in thy head when thou wast born, to signify thou camest to bite the world. And if the rest be true, which I have heard, thou camest.
I'll hear no more. Die, prophet, in thy speech.
Oh!
This amongst the rest was I ordained.
I. And for much more slaughter after this. God forgive my sins and pardon thee.
See how my sword weeps for the poor king's death. Oh, may such purple tears be always shed from those that wish the downfall of our house. If any spark of life be yet remaining, down, down to hell, and say I sent thee thither. I that have neither pity, love, nor fear. Indeed, 'tis true that Henry told me of. The midwife wondered, the women cried, "Oh, Jesus, bless us, he is born with teeth." And so I was, which plainly signified that I should snarl and bite and play the dog. Then, since the heavens have shaped my body so, let hell make crooked my mind to answer it. I have no father, I am like no father. I have no brother, I am like no brother. And this word love, which greybeards call divine, be resident in men like one another, and not in me. I am myself alone. Clarence, beware, thou keep'st me from the light, but I will sort a pitchy day for thee, for I will buzz abroad such prophecies that Edward shall be fearful of his life, and then, to purge his fear, I'll be thy death. King Henry and the prince his son are gone. Clarence, thy turn is next, and then the rest. Counting myself but bad till I be best. I'll throw thy body in another room, and triumph, Henry, in thy day of doom.
Once more we sit in England's royal throne, repurchased with the blood of enemies. What valiant foemen like to autumn's corn have we mowed down in tops of all their pride. Thus have we swept suspicion from our seat and made our footstool of security. Come hither, Bess. Let me kiss my boy. Young Ned, for thee, thine uncles and myself have in our armors watched the winter's night, when all afoot in summer's scalding heat, that thou mightst repossess the crown in peace. And of our labors thou shalt reap the gain. Clarence and Gloucester, love, my lovely queen, and kiss your princely nephew, brothers both.
Ah, the duty that I owe unto your majesty, I seal upon the lips of this sweet babe.
Thanks, noble Clarence, worthy brother, thanks.
And that I love the tree from whence thou sprangst, witness the loving kiss I give the fruit. Mwah.
Now am I seated as my soul delights, having my country's peace and brothers' loves. And now what rests? But that we spend the time with stately triumphs, mirthful comic shows, such as befits the pleasure of the court. Sound drums and trumpets, farewell, sour annoy. For here, I hope, begins our lasting joy.
Hi, y'all. Thank you so much. Brava to the team. Thank you all, everybody who tuned in. We really appreciate you being here. So let's dive right into our usual post-show questions. We got the same old three, with the first one being, what did you learn about the show that you did not know before? We're gonna hit up our cast first and then jump to YouTube.
I didn't know that King Edward had such a awkward, difficult wooing scene to watch, especially with knowing, trying not to do spoiler alerts, with what happens with Gloucester later, and the fact that he's watching on, kind of learning some really weird lessons from his brother that he takes into a very different direction later on. That was a really exciting shock for me watching that.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a really exciting conversation after the next play, because you realize just how intentionally he built that one out of this one, even though they were written, with some sort of divide. Even after yesterday's read and rehearsal, I wasn't ready for it to be such an emotional roller coaster. You just don't catch a break. You're up, you're down. A scene goes from being kind of cordial to being horrifying so quickly. Just the pace of it was emotionally manic.
Yeah, sometimes that gets ironed out in productions, doesn't it? Because we make sense of it, and we start to make things logical, and we chart a journey for the character. Whereas the inconsistencies in this reading way of doing it just pop out, don't they? And that sort of slightly out of control thing, very much holding a mirror up to nature. You laugh and you cry, you're scared and you're still laughing, and all sorts of nonsense. Yeah.
Yeah, the 6 plays really depart from the hero's journey that we got used to in Richard and Henry IV and Henry V. There's really no telling who to root for anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And everybody keeps changing sides all the time. So you can trust no one. No one is trustworthy. For me today, I really have to say that this is the first time I understood the arc of Henry and what a terrible position he's in as someone who honestly does not want to rule, but honestly wants to keep the peace and wants people to be happy and wants people to be God-fearing and all that kind of stuff. But he doesn't want to do it by war. He doesn't want to do it by fighting. He wants to do it by talking, by reasoning, by let's sit down together and work this out, which of course is kind of where we've come in diplomacy, right? We've learned something from that about diplomacy, but nobody wants to do that. Everybody just wants to hack at each other and come out on top. And I felt pity for him because he's a sort of a man out of his time. He doesn't belong there. I felt less like, oh, he's a bad king, right? And more like, wow, you're just not the right man at the right time. You belong somewhere else in a different time.
I know. We got some agreeing, lots of agreeing on YouTube, and some additions of what an incredible character Margaret is. And then also we had a comment, when I'm watching the fight scenes, I always think, how do they know which side people are on? I guess the answer is they don't always. So painful to see the aftermath.
So jumping to our next question, what word, image, or phrase jumped out at you today?
I was struck by the scene between the father who kills his son and the son who kills his father, and that idea of people being split and divided on political terms without necessarily knowing that they have been. And that might be because, obviously I know you guys will feel it where you are as well, but it feels very much pertinent in the UK since 2016 that we're all on these different sides, and even within the same families and friends, you suddenly have people looking at each other in a very different way and ready to tear each other down for it.
I think along those lines, you see how personal the attacks are on the level of, dukes and earls coming at each other and, assassinating and replacing. But when you think of the level of like the mass violence, it's not personal at all at a distance. It's just, you see a swarm of the enemy, and all you have to do is just throw yourself at it and destroy it. And then suddenly you draw close and suddenly it wasn't worth it anymore. And I think it's interesting to see how many characters in this play grieve, and specifically grieve over the loss of family. And it's interesting to think that those risks weren't enough to stop them from engaging the conflict in the first place. It's always afterward that you see Margaret break down and suddenly regret, seeing someone killed. It's, it's not beforehand. It's so reactive, and and it doesn't breed anything. All they can do with that loss is just move on in loss or create greater loss. It's devastating.
And in addition to that, and thinking about family, something that stood out to me was the like almost the radicalization of the young people, right? They're the children who arrive at war and who are ready to fight for the cause that they believe in, and how the opposing side knows that striking down the children is going to be the most effective way to win. They know that the youth are not only like the heart and soul of the people who are currently fighting this fight, but are also the future of the fight. So every time a young person is targeted or was targeted in this play, I thought like, oh, well, like there goes the future of this fight.
And on top of that, like in the cyclical nature of it, right? Like from Rutland to Prince Edward, like that it comes back around, but it exacerbates more each time. It's like, I'm going to show you this bit of his blood, to we're going to all stab him in front of you and get off watching you mourn, because each vengeance builds upon the past.
To that end,
Oh, go ahead.
just two chunks of text that I heard, and when I was not on, I was working on something else, and literally both times I turned my head to be like, whoa. Where he that will not fight for such a hope, go home to bed. And if murdering innocents be executing, why then thou art an executioner.
Yeah, we have some things that popped out from folks on YouTube. Counting myself, but bad till I be best. A big wind up for R3. Women are soft, mild, pitiful, and flexible. Margaret's tiger wrapped in a woman's hide, which perhaps echoes Elizabeth I. I have the body of a weak, feeble woman, but I have the heart and stomach of a king. And then, yet hasty marriage seldom proveth well. There are so many hasty marriages in Shakespeare.
And our third question, why does or doesn't this play matter today?
We've been answering that question for the last 10 minutes, haven't we? It's been covered. There's so many resonances. Where would you begin? These scenes that I always expect to be very odd. The scenes where people are stabbing a dead body or killing a child and all that. When I was growing up in Leicester, I'd go, well, it's Shakespeare, it's a different world, it's not real, all that. And then the more you learn about people fighting under duress and war crimes and just ordinary people put in these pressure cooker situations and what can happen with peers around you and demonizing the enemy, suddenly you go, it was just writing documentaries almost, but in iambic pentameter.
I think this is a little bit an answer for the last question as well as this one, but this time I felt a lot of like animosity toward Henry when he just kind of like runs off to the woods. I felt really angry and like having a world leader kind of running off while his country is at war right now really stood out to me. in a big way.
And to see how he's snapped out of that moment, like that speech is enormous, sitting out there and then contemplating, it's like, oh, all the years, and just thinking like, I have time to consider, I have time to just kind of think and daydream and whatnot, and then it's seeing firsthand the grief that then snaps him out, but at least it snaps him out. There's not, there's not a neglect. He acknowledges it. He speaks to these people at, it becomes a platform that elevates his grief as well. There's at least maybe some empathy right there, which currently feels so absent.
And I have to wonder, something that came up in previous talkbacks about Hal was like, did his time with like commoners, did his time with the everyday rabble help to humanize him more and help to make him a better king? And so I thought that it was really lovely that we got to see this moment where the king is here on the ground with the everyday folk, and that is the thing that brings him back to his role as a leader.
I think that's really interesting, Ella. I think that gives reason, more than selfishness. It gives reason for him to say to Warwick that and to Clarence, you guys need to rule. You need to do this. I am cursed and I cannot rule. I can't do it. You guys, you got to take it on. It gives more power to that decision.
We got some thoughts from the YouTube as well. The play shows the wretchedness of eye for an eye, or might makes right, as ways of moving through the world. Pain and sorrow are the only reward. And then also the changing loyalties feel relevant today somehow. Just trying to be on the side that's winning so you stay alive.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot that's feeling really relevant in these war plays in a way that I don't think any of us expected. When we decided that this was the time we were going to chunk all the war plays together. And yeah, we're breathing through it. Any questions from YouTube or any questions from the cast?
Yeah. I pause for a reply.
I was about to say the change, like the constant ping pong changing, never was reflected so well by like all of the businesses and theaters that like all put out statements all at the very same time about what's going on. And some of them we were like, that's interesting. That's all I have.
Yeah. I think the intrigue, what got me about this is just the amount of venality in politics. I mean, that it is truly a science of personalities. And they look for the weakness and they then exploit that weakness. And when, for some reason, circumstances change, they just wait and bide their time. I mean, this is a lesson in politics that is really being portrayed today, and how people are back and forth. And as you just said, Deb, all of a sudden, everybody is on board. Everybody has a black square and they have a thoughtful statement, as if the things that are happening today haven't been going on forever. But, let me jump on this bandwagon because it'll look good in the very near future. And I see it throughout this play. Let me go here. Let me go there. I mean, the Margaret goes to the French. Does she love the French that much that she thinks they will redeem her crown? And then she turns around and goes to Warwick, and it's just horrific.
We got, thank you, Jerome, in the comments on the YouTube. Yeah. We do have 2 questions from YouTube. The first one is, does this play have the highest ruling class body count?
I know it has the most war scenes, right? It has the most battle scenes. I think I read that.
I'll take you as an authority on that.
It's not quite Women Beware Women, but it's close.
Right on. All right. Question 2 from YouTubers. Do you think that this play has the most sarcastic / sardonic exchanges?
No,
I think
Much Ado has that.
I don't know. Warwick was killing it. The sarcasm just dripping from every other word. It was perfect.
Well, that's true, and actually Gloucester was doing the same. You're right. It was pretty snide.
I think we're so accustomed to hear it in the comedies, it's weird to see it coupled with the violence. It takes on this quality of like a really, upsetting kind of contemporary horror film, where you have these people mocking each other and they call it out. They're like, "Oh, he's mocking you. Oh my, oh, look at you." And then also, let's all stab him as well. There's just like, to be able to laugh through the violence it's like Clockwork Orange. It's terrifying.
Yeah, I would say maybe not the most sarcasm by quantity, but maybe the highest stakes to the sarcasm. Maybe that makes it feel like, whoa, that's a lot. Absolutely. Oh, we actually have a question here within the chat, which is to Chrissy. Girl, what shade is that on your nails?
I'll have to look and see. It's like Sally Hansen, man. I love it. But I'll look and see. Report back. And thank you for noticing.
Well, great. It
that's
seems like
it,
that is all our questions for tonight. Thank you all so much for joining us, and I would invite everybody watching and everybody participating to, as they notice their theater organizations and communities making statements, to hold them accountable to all the statements that they're making now and for all time.
Thank. Well said. We are, on that note, going to have many more conversations over at the Company Pub, which is a benefit for folks who decide to become Patreon supporters. If you are a Patreon supporter, thank you so much. If you're not and you're interested, you can get more information at patreon.com/Shakespeare Happy Hours. And there are donation amounts at many a level, so flexibility for your convenience. Thank you for even considering donating, and thank you for considering donating wherever is most needed at this very important time. And with that, we continue the talk. We have the beer. And we'll see you, gosh, what is today? Wednesday? We'll see you on Friday for Richard III. Dun, dun, dun. Thanks,
you all so
everybody.
much. Stay safe.
Yes, please.